Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Cammy Goes Keto, where I'm transitioning from the standard American diet to a ketogenic diet and working on my carbohydrates and going carnivore and doing some fasting. Just finished a 48-hour fast, which was phenomenal. I did great. I did it with my brother and we did it. So that was interesting. We could maybe talk a little bit about that. I'm here with the wonderful Mike Collins. Thank you, Mike, for being here. The sugar-free man, the detox man who has helped tens of thousands of people get off of sugar and knows the whole sequence of events that happens as you transition from a life full of sugar to a life that's sugar-free. And we are here talking today. Good, a back scratcher. Oh my God, I don't have mine in front of the computer. I love my back scratcher. Oh my God, it's the best. It's the best. Don't you can't your hands, you've got long arms, can't they reach the majority of your
No
back?
way, no way, not where it itches. It always itches right dead center, it's like right in the middle. You can't go up, you can't go down.
Oh my God, because my arms are short. I have, like, anatomically short arms. They're petite arms, the only petite thing on me.
I think I do now. I think now it's like I don't know, I don't wanna call it an addiction, but it's just like it feels good, you know what I mean? It's like
I know, it's a dopamine hit. And,
there is a little itch back there, but, I think my body might create it because it wants to get a little scratching.
yeah, yeah. All right. So we are here talking about me being in a blah place, like just kind of in this place in between life with binging and life without binging. And I'm day 54 or something of no binge, and day 48 or something of no sugar, flour, or caffeine. Yeah. So this is a big deal for me because it hasn't happened, like, I don't know, ever. And my attitude about it is good. Like, I made it 47 days once, but I was white knuckling it, and it was not the same thing. This is where I'm looking more for a commitment. Well, I made a 90-day commitment. I'm getting already nervous about what's gonna happen at day 90. I'm looking at, how things are gonna go then, but I'm trying to stay in the now, and we're talking about, before we taped, about tossing things up, so to speak, and how I can do things differently, maybe get some different things going in my life and have a different attitude than just being blah about the life I'm living right now.
Yeah, no, we were talking about, mixing it up a little bit, getting out of the blahs. One of the things I wanna warn about, or just kinda remind folks about, is that blah is okay. This transfer, this change, you have to think about it, and no emails or, posts about, my terminology, but you have to think about a junkie's life, okay? They're trying to get their score all the time, and it's, like, chaotic. It's not smooth. It's not regular. It's not, you know, you don't have, like, no, not that you don't have any problems, but you don't have this up and down roller coaster chaos, right? And to a degree, when you're stimulating all your brain reward chemicals, sugar does the same thing. It may not appear, you're not robbing people or doing crazy things, but you are going up and down a lot. You're also you're mentally and emotionally going up and down. And when you get abstinent, especially if we get 2+ months like you are, things level out. It's calmer. It's a little bit, it's not as up and down. It's not chaotic. So, your brain isn't going, should I eat it? Shouldn't I? Can I go to the grocery store? All of these kind of like thoughts that I call it free. Well, it's not invented, but free rent in your head, like this ongoing discussion, most usually characterized by the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder, where you're like, should I, shouldn't I? How much is this? Reading the label, all that kind of stuff just calms way down. And so one of the most common term or ideas that I've heard from addicts from drugs and alcohol all the way to sugar is it's boring. Life's a little boring. It's a little calm. So we were talking about ways to shake it up. And I asked Cammy if she had a rebounder, right? If she's been doing very faithful to her walks and to her gym and, doing her body composition and all this stuff. And I've posted a couple videos that I wanted to talk about today. It was like one where I was at a trampoline park and I was just bouncing. And so I turned on the camera and people really got excited about it. But I've always had a rebounder, a small rebounder. And a lot of people have these. There's more than 1 million of them sold a year. And she said she had one down in the garage. So I said, well, why don't you just pull it out and just bounce a little bit? Mix it up a little bit from your walking and your exercise. And, the whole NASA study about uh, 10 minutes of bouncing is worth 30 minutes of not walking, but jogging. And, every rebounder on YouTube says the same thing because, NASA did the study. So, you got to believe it. But it does really shake up your whole body in a lot of ways, especially if you're at a plateau or whatever, lymphatic drainage and, muscles all the way through your body. One of the things I'm amazed about rebounder folks is that they seem to gain tone in their upper body. You would think that they would do it in their core and their legs and stuff and their calves, but they do it in their upper body as well. So there's just a lot of, and another, the detox process doesn't necessarily only take 30 days or, 60 days. When you shake up your muscles and your lymph system, you're going to get a little bit of, detoxing and go to the next level. So just one method to shake it up. And I think it's, easy enough for most people to do. There's usually everybody's got one laying around in the garage. If they bought one sometime in their dieting career.
Yeah. I got mine from my friend. So yeah, I'm going to get it out and I'm going to start jumping on it. I'm going to start, 10 minutes a day, just bouncing 10 minutes a day or every other day or something.
You can watch TV, you can do whatever, you don't have to be, you can, it doesn't have to be violent either. It's just light bouncing and move into medium, if you really get aggressive, you can do the, and some of the routines I see on YouTube is like, they're getting really crazy. They have like groups now where they have, at a retail establishment, they'll have 20 or 10 or 15 or 20 of them lined up. And then, they're doing an aerobics exercise and they're like, they're really, they're really getting after it, But, yeah, no, it's, I think it's, just one idea to shake it up,
Yeah. So
yeah.
what was the story that you were going to tell? There was a story or something you were going to
Well, one of
tell.
the things that's been the bane of my existence for over a decade is that people all know about sugar. Like, there was a great book that came out a while back called Change or Die. Change or Die is 25 plus years old, a very well researched book for the time, but it came to two conclusions. One, facts don't work, and two, fear doesn't work. So no matter how much I tell people about how bad sugar is or what it does to you or, scare them or whatever and the weight, no, it doesn't work as far as getting people to do what we like to see, which is the transformational change process. The whole like actually executing and going sugar free. I mean, if you followed this series at all, Dr. Cammy is a gifted surgeon and OBGYN, and she has, struggled with just eliminating sugar and ultra processed carbohydrates. It doesn't really there's a deep connection of addiction or something going on. And while she's doing great now, it's been a long journey. And a lot of people go through this in our groups. They go through this journey. And so we've struggled and we have come up with a solution that is viable for people who listen and pay attention. And that is A, group support, and B, group support. No, but really it's like, yeah, we're going to have all the information that everybody else knows about and hears about. Yes, you got to stop. But So what we've struggled with is this idea of communicating our message to people, right? Because they know they should do it. Intellectually, it's not a problem. It's this process that they need to go through, which doesn't happen overnight. It takes a little bit of time. It takes you, in the first year where you really got to get acclimated to being a person who uses sugar and a person who does not use sugar, right? And so in the last couple days, I have posted just by accident, my team repurposed an article that I wrote years ago. And even in the article, they made a mistake that my mother was still alive with Alzheimer's, right? And then coincidentally, Monday, I was on a Alzheimer's caregivers summit, I guess is what it was, but it was a live presentation. And I hadn't done a live presentation. Usually these things are recorded. So what happened was, I don't know how many people were on. It didn't show, a couple hundred or whatever. And the sales through my sugardetox.com stuff went crazy because somehow I just nailed it. And then coincidentally, the team had put up one about my mother that led to an article at sugardetox.com that said she remembered so much about her life. No, she forgot so much about her life, but she never forgot about sugar. This is why I can't stop talking about the brain connection. Again, like the combination of those two made it go crazy. And I've been looking for a way to help communicate this to more people because we've had success, with lots of folks. And I tell the story I told was about Tony Horton, who invented a thing. I'm dating myself, but most of the people that listen to this will remember the infomercial called P90X, which was an exercise program. And Tony had lost millions and millions of dollars trying to get this program, it turned out very good, to the public. And so what happened is they went back to the drawing board and one of the guys came up with what they were actually doing, which was called muscle confusion. And muscle confusion was and is a method of mixing it up a little bit. It's exactly what we talked about at the beginning, mixing up your routine a little bit. And he had invented this exercise that did that. Well, when they inserted those two words and used them regularly in the infomercial, the story is written and it went on to make history and make and get out to millions of people. So I don't know if I found my muscle confusion moment with because in Alzheimer's and in dementia, I think it's pretty common knowledge that people know that a couple of things. One, sugar feeds cancer and Alzheimer's, and possibly there's a lot of really good evidence that it actually causes it. I'm not here to say that, but I've interviewed Dale Bredesen twice. We've actually worked with people from Bredesen's organization who they could not get off sugar, that we got off sugar. So, anyway, that's me mixing it up a little bit, trying to get the message out to more people and, bringing it back down to you guys and Dr. Cammy. 10 minutes on the rebounder might mix it up a little bit, So anyway.
Yeah, so that's exciting. That sounds great to me that there's something different I can do to get out of this blah state. The other day I was in a meeting and I can't remember if it was a sugar addiction meeting or an OA meeting or an AA meeting, one of my many meetings that I'm going to, because I really do feel like group support is keeping me floating along with a lot of other things too. But group support is really, really key. I agree with that. And Mike's really big on that. And I think that's true. That I was thinking about how boring my life is and how there isn't that drama and that this and that and all the excitement. Because I remember when I used to decide I was going to binge, as soon as I made the decision, the dopamine would go up and,
Yeah.
before the sugar even hits your tongue,
Yes.
and then when it hit the tongue,
that's a hugely important point right there.
yeah, just all that.
The seeking is almost the using is anticlimactic and guilt producing, but the seeking is like,
Yeah. And I would have to say, I would say maybe 10 or 20 minutes into starting a binge, it would start to go down. And then you're just a slave to the biochemical addiction of the
Right.
ultra processed foods and carrying
Right.
it all the way out. But when things were boring in this meeting, I realized that that was really what serenity is. And I was like, "Oh, I think this is what serenity is, where there's peace and calm and, life is going really great and there's no hiccups and there's no drama, there's no excitement, there's no sparkly pink, glitter stuff happening."
Yep. Yep.
So, yeah.
No, that's so true. And it is a little subconscious. It's not like you're thinking, well, my life's boring because I'm not eating sugar or whatever. But it is really a visceral dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. There's a lot of activity going on there when you're ingesting and then crashing, and you know what I mean? And when you're steady, and you could tell this if you guys are putting on a glucose monitor, and look, gang, it's over the counter, $50 for 2 weeks, less than $100 for a full month to get a full baseline to watch your glucose, going up and down. And when your glucose goes up and down that way, that much, it's affecting every part of your body, especially your brain. Uh, insulin resistance of the brain, it's spiking. And so these are feelings, okay? These are internal at this stage, but internal feelings that are not happening because it's steady, 85, 90, less than 100. Your glucose is just steady because you're eating the right product, eating the right foods and not eating the junk and spiking to 200 or 300. You know what I mean? So it's like you're not, and I think hopefully we, you know, got rid of the roadblock or the blah or that you were talking about, because the blah is the good stuff that you need to get used to. You know what I mean? That you can add exciting stuff, whatever your hobbies or your passion, your business, your whatever it is, you can add stuff, get a little bit of, dopamine that way, or obviously exercise or get a hug or whatever. A lot of good things, call a friend. And those are good things. Those are holistically healthy, positive ways to and you're not gonna get the giant spikes, You get a hug, you're gonna get a little bit. You're gonna call a friend, you're gonna get a little bit. She showed me show them thing that like, well, my nails are perfect now because I'm taking, another self-care thing, right? That we discovered that she was doing. But they're not gonna provide that freaking jolt, It's gonna be steady, steady, And that's the calmness that you have to, get used to genuinely. You have to
Get
get
used to, absolutely. Like, one of the other things that I was thinking about doing the other day, I think it was yesterday actually, was going back on dating websites. And,
that'll
and that'll be a jolt, man. You get those men looking after you, and that would, and sure enough, in the past, when I've gone on those websites, my binges increased.
oh
My
my god.
They were totally related. I figured that out, and so I know that right now that's not the right thing to go
Yeah,
do. That's not a smart thing to go do. But, you think about that and you're like, "Oh, how can I get that? What can I do?"
and let us be clear that the conscious thought is not, "Let me get that thing." It's an unconscious thought that you need that, you know what I mean? It's not like you're thinking about it, right? It's not like you're saying, "What do I do to shake things up?" We're describing this as what's happening below the surface as you're recovering, you know what I mean? So, and I tell you, as somebody that's sugar-free for 35 years who frequents dating sites right now, is that I think those little notifications, those little matches, those little things are a definite dopamine, you know what I mean? It's like, so I can guarantee that, and still to this day, I think it's the roller coaster of security, insecurity. Am I too old? Am I too this? Am I too that? That could lead to more doom scrolling, or, you know what I mean? It's like, we often talk about addiction recovery as whack-a-mole. And whack-a-mole is simply, you've played the games. Something gets get a handle on something and something else pops up. Hit it down and something else pops up. In our program, uh, the number one secondary excitement driver, and let's call it an addiction because there's a lot of people addicted to this, is shopping, right? The Amazon books or Amazon boxes start coming. You're out doing retail therapy. And then you start getting your credit card bills and you're like, wait a minute, this like I'm off of sugar for 60 days, but I'm $2,000 down here. So you have to be careful.
I have been watching that, and I have a budget guy, Doctor Budgets. If you want a
Okay.
great budget guy, you can get a hold of him online at drbudgets.com. And he helps me keep in line. And a few months ago, he said he wanted me to order on Amazon just once a week, and I got him to agree to twice a week. I got him to agree on Wednesdays and on Sundays. I get to order from Amazon. And so what I do in the meantime is I put stuff in my cart. I go online all day long and put stuff in my cart. And then when Wednesday and Sunday comes, I get to decide, and it's really helping me with my budget too, because by the time Wednesday comes, something that I thought I needed on Monday. And then when Wednesday comes, I decided I don't really need it and I can use something I already have at home, or I can wait, or it's not on sale, or so it really has been helping me with my budget, but I tell you that I would say the last week, I haven't been sticking to my plan, and I've just been going on Amazon and just ordering whatever I want, and they come, almost every day and bring their stuff to my door, and that's an excitement, waiting for the stuff to show up. And so, yeah, it's interesting that it came up in this conversation because that's something that I've been falling off the wagon for the last week. And the other thing I haven't been doing for the last like 3 or 4 days is my food plan. So, I think some of it is just this like, it's so boring and I don't even want to go do like the things that I need to do that have gotten me to this place, of success.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm glad we're talking about it because you just have to stay the path.
yeah, yeah. That's one thing. There is while we don't weigh and measure in this program, uh, unless you're one of the 10 or 15% who truly end up as a volume eater once you have a true abstinence and you're still volume eating. But the food prep part, the food being prepared part is super important, especially in the early days. And it gets like brushing your teeth. It gets systematic, or what's the right word? Predictable. It's like you don't have to think about it. On Sundays, you make four chicken breasts instead of one or two, and you have a little round or whatever. You have extra, and it's easy to not you're not tempted to do takeout or whatever. So that's it. That part of there's a word I'm searching for and I can't find it, but the systematic nature of food prep. And you don't necessarily, and I think in 12 steps you have to call your food in to the sponsor every day or whatever. That's not required for 85-90% of people if you have an abstinence from sugar and ultra processed carbohydrates, we found. So, yeah, I mean, that's an important part. That's one of the boring things that you can't let go. It's like you would let go of brushing your teeth. It's a good analogy.
And it does require commitment and energy. You have to have the food in the freezer. And like yesterday, I pulled out some steaks because I started thinking, oh, what do I have in the fridge to eat? And I didn't have anything in there. I had gone to Costco actually and bought, those hard boiled eggs, which I love those because they're easy and they're already there and you just peel the package and your egg's ready to eat. You don't have to peel the egg. And so I bought some of those, but I thought, gosh, I need some meat. I got it out of the freezer and then it had to thaw and then I had to cook it and now it's in the fridge and it's ready to eat. And so you have to plan that, accordingly so that you can keep your diet, your nutrition going in the direction that you want. And the other thing that I found that kind of contributes to the blah part of it is that, eating out is really
Mine
challenge. A what?
minefield.
Oh, it's a minefield for sure. It's just a huge challenge, and I don't even like to do it right now. Like, right now, I'm like, I just feel so much better being in my home and eating my food that I know doesn't have sugar in it, because everything out there has sugar, and I remember you once saying that. You're like, "Yeah, you can't really eat anything," and, I've eaten out with you when we were in Chicago, and you had a cheese omelet, and that was it, because and, and I had something in there that had probably some sugar in it. Bacon, I think. I had some bacon, and there's sugar in their bacon when you go out. I mean, I buy the tender belly, no sugar bacon.
Yeah, there's no one of the things that I've talked to people about in the restaurant thing, and I love what you said, is that I'm comfortable at home making my own food. But eventually you do go out and you have to go out and whatever. And so I tell people, and this sounds maybe whatever, indulgent or whatever, but you have to go out to a restaurant that is a little bit higher scale where, where they have steak or seafood or whatever, and you can get food that has not been adulterated. Where was I the other day that, well, it was actually a meeting. Well, she wasn't in the sugar industry, but she's a meeting with someone who, she's a trauma expert is what she is. But at the restaurant was, it was kind of a health food restaurant. And I asked about the steak, and it had been marinated in about 5 other things, but the number 1 ingredient was brown sugar.
Oh,
Marinating steak
wow.
in brown sugar, right? It's a good thing I asked, because it would've been,
You would have taken one bite and known that.
Exactly. So, you have to go to a place where they're not gonna marinate their steaks or their seafoods. Seafood's almost, if you get grilled or, that kind of seafood, but you have to be careful with seafood. Like Old Bay spice has sugar in it, and they use that spice. They have to tell them plain, but at least they have a plain piece of fish that didn't come from corporate frozen. You know what I mean? It was caught yesterday or 2 days ago, or a steak that was, so you have to be able to, and vegetables that are real vegetables and not from a package, whatever it is. And so that's just a little tip to help you when you need to go out. So if, they say, "Let's go out to lunch," and then you suggest a restaurant, and you get the folks there, they don't know, they don't care. You're having that piece of salmon that was, really swimming a couple days ago and not like frozen from corporate 2 weeks ago or whatever.
And you call the restaurant ahead of time too. That's what you can call the restaurant and you can speak to the chef and you can say, so they don't have it ready when you come in, but at least you're aware of how they're cooking it and what they're doing and you know what to ask for.
Yeah. Even the bigger Applebee's and the places that are sit-down places, they have this giant book, literally, that they can get out and tell you what's in everything. And you can ask. And you're not gonna find that book in the restaurants that I'm describing, because sometimes the specials are different and, it's more, I don't wanna say hoity or everything, but it's more like the chef's discretion, and they're trying to present something really good. Now, they're gonna have a lot of crap, a lot of sauces. These guys, their specialty is the sauces, right? This is what makes their higher end restaurant better. So you have to not have any sauces, or at least have it on the side, or find out what's in it, kind of thing. And that kind of I'll tell you from years and years of experience, that annoys chefs a little bit when you interrupt their day to ask about stuff. It's not going to interrupt the in Applebee's and stuff, because they have the big book and they can look it up. And then, their manager's job is to do that kind of stuff. But so you have to stick with the basics in quality restaurants of food, of meat and seafood and vegetables, chicken, vegetables.
And leave them a good tip too. If they come out and talk to you and try to take care of you, really leave them a good tip because they're working, you're pulling them out of their routine and that requires extra effort on their part.
Yeah, one of the little secrets I've learned over the years is, when you're asking about something, you ask the server, "Does this have sugar in it? Because I can't have sugar." 99 out of 100 times, they think you have diabetes and they go to work for you. twice in my life, the server said, "Are you diabetic? Because I can't have sugar either." And so they're definitely going to bat for you. They're rare, but it happens. And so if you just use that phrase, "Does this have sugar in it? I can't have sugar," they'll go to bat for you. You know what I mean? They'll find out. And they're not, it doesn't seem to put them out. I agree, definitely give them a good tip because I got through college in the restaurant business. So I definitely do that. And they've got to go a little extra step for you. So definitely.
Yeah. Well, this has been an interesting day today, talking about lots of different things and about
Yeah,
how to get rid of the blahs and how to
right.
just kind of manage life, right? As I'm going through sugar-free, flour-free, caffeine-free. That's
You're nailing it right on the head. It is managing life that's going to be different. And you're going to be different and you're going to be perceived different in your own family, in restaurants, without the group support stuff. We're not being funny or facetious. We're not kidding. You're going to need people who think this way because you're not going to just willy-nilly run across people that agree with everything you're saying. I mean, one of the things about that semi-viral post that I made is that I've been deleting people, haters, basically, you know, says you got to have sugar, stop being so phobic about it. There's about 5, 6 comments out of, 50 that are like they're just being them because they don't understand. Likely they've never been an addict. They don't understand the struggles that people go through. And that's really the majority of the world out there today. The only reason the other 45 comments are, is their follower. They're people they've struggled and they agree with the ideas, right?
You mean those guys are the minority, the people that aren't addicted? Or because
Well, yeah, I mean, it breaks down, a third and a third and a third, right? And
but go ahead.
well, no, what I was going to say is like the haters are going to be people, and I don't think they do this like they're not doing it maliciously. They're doing it because we're tribe animals, and maybe they're a little overweight, or maybe they got somebody or they have diabetes or something. And when you tell them what you're doing, like we were talking about the chaos and internal chaos, they have this feeling like, no, I'm falling behind. No, they don't want you to leave that tribe, the tribe that is sad, the standard American diet. They want you to stay within, especially if it's family members. They're feeling like you're going to be outside the family now, because you're doing something different. And again, I don't think it's malicious. I think it's subconscious. They're trying to protect you because out in the world it's scary. 1,000 years ago, if you left a tribe, you could die. So yeah, it's a complex, and you nailed it with your phrase there that, you're just learning to do life differently, emotionally, with other people, with your family, in restaurants. You're learning to do it differently. And you can get abstinence, but if you don't do that full year almost of this reorientation of the type of person from a sugar user to a non-sugar user with the climate of the world today, you're going to fail because it's lonely. It's lonely if you don't have friends that are doing it with you, or, people you.
Well, what you're bringing up is I'm having a lot of feelings around this year thing that you're bringing up, and you've brought it up more than once on this video, on this podcast. And because, at first it was 30 days, and then I managed to get 30 days together through making a 90-day commitment. And now, as I'm in the middle of 90 days, you're starting to throw out this year thing. And so
Let me tell you what, over the year, you're 100% right. Even at the end of the 30-day challenge, the video-based challenge that we do as you're moving into the group, I say in like day 28, 29, ha ha, I tricked you. Because nobody's signing up for a year. Nobody's signing up for a year change process. Nobody's signing up even for 90 days change process. Although we're coming out with a big 90-day special coming out for Black Friday, but because it's starting to make sense now. And it's tied to that Alzheimer's thing. It's a reprogramming of your brain. But what I'm getting at here is like, you have to ease into this. You have to ease into the understanding of this. It doesn't, you can't just say, I'm signing up to never eat sugar again in my life. That never works when you're trying to influence change or create change, or it never works in the psyche of an addict who's like, no way, there's no way I'm doing that.
Well, and that's why when I tell people, like at the beginning, a couple of years ago, when I was realizing I was addicted to sugar, and I would tell people when they would offer me something that was sweet, I'd say, oh, no, thank you. I'm addicted to sugar. And 90% of them, 9 out of 10 would say, oh, so am I. Oh my gosh, I can't eat this stuff as they're eating it. And so then I quit saying that because I realized that like everybody says that. But for me, what's really working, thinking about going a year without sugar, that's kind of overwhelming me a little bit right now. But, the thing is what's working is one day at a time. Like I wake up in the morning and, I set my snooze and I lay in bed and it's nice and warm and I'm comfy. And I think about just for today, this is all I have to do.
Right.
What am I going to eat? I have my food plan if I'm lucky. If I've done my due diligence, I have my food plan. I always have food in the fridge that's available for me to eat. That's the right food. That's what I want. And then at the end of the day, I just have to look at, hey, I did it today. And that is what's really helping me a lot. And then the days are starting to stack up a little bit.
Yeah, no, I can't argue with that. That is the answer. That's how it's done. That's how the years happen. They don't happen like, you can't future pace. You can't show people that this is what you'll look like in a year or whatever. This is how you'll feel in a year. You can't do it in the early days. You just can't. What I'm trying to emphasize is the process takes time, and you have to give yourself that grace and that time to do it. So hopefully people understand that. It's not you know, I don't want to scare people off, but you'll, you know, I think one of the things that I've often believed, and I think that, when history books are written, that this series that you and I have done will become famous in lore, and people watched your beginning and now they're on the verge of watching your long-term change process. You know what I mean? And most people, when they see a 5-day challenge or 10-day challenge, they don't get to understand sometimes what they're going through, what they're going to have to go through. And I would recommend anyone who's listening to this today, and I think you should send this over to me this time, and I'm going to promote it on my social more this time, really, really heavily, because this has been a really good episode, is that go back to the beginning of this channel and watch Cammy, the bravery and the ups and downs that basically we've talked about in this episode, the ups and downs that people go through. So yeah, do that. If this is of interest to you and this is kind of caught your interest. I think you faded out there. Oh, there you go. Well, if she doesn't come back, gang, and hopefully this part of the recording will stay, we're at sugardetox.com and you can check us out. We have quizzes there and we have the 30-day challenge there and a way to get into the groups that we talk about where you can get support of people who are just like you. And one of the groups is over 21,000. There's a lot of people that are doing this, and hopefully Cammy will be back here in a second. I don't want to sign off of her recording without having her come back, but yeah, you can Google me there, Mike Collins, the Sugar-Free Man, and find out these resources, which is in essence what the groups that Cammy belongs to, Dr. Cammy belongs to. So maybe it looked like her internet died. I'll start texting her in a second. Sadly, we can't have you ask any questions. I'm always better with questions. I'm not really that good with, orations or, whatever, where I just talk. But, Kimmy's just new at starting her channel. I don't know how much editing she likes to do, or if she even does edit. I think they might allow it on the platform, but Anyway, the sugar thing is just such a the story I told earlier about the Caregivers Summit for Alzheimer's, they kind of threw me a curveball, making it live. Usually they're recorded. And B, they wanted me to have a presentation, with slides and all this other kind of stuff. So, and I didn't have that. But somehow it just clicked. It just clicked in over years of doing this, and it turned out pretty decent. I don't wanna try and pretend that I can replicate it here, but the main issue, and this is something that I've kinda narrowed down, kinda like the, what do you call it? Welcome back, Dr. Cammy. I don't know if you can hear
Yay.
a
I can
little.
hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
so I did a little, impromptu without you, so you don't have to edit. It's, just kinda and what I was getting to is I was trying to narrow down the 16 years of owning sugaraddiction.com and, 7, 8 years doing this full time now, is that the linchpin to this recovery, the linchpin to this change process is not the food, it's not the sugar, it's the emotional life change that happens that you have to get through it and understand. And we covered it quite well in this, or, parts of it in this episode. But as I had mentioned before, I really do suggest that you go back. She's having difficulty with her internet. Go back and watch this series of Dr. Cammy Goes Keto. Actually, it starts with I don't know if she kept this part or she started a new channel. We had another woman involved, but definitely the part where it's just Cammy and I. And even before that, if it's a woman named Karen, and you can see a brilliant surgeon, a brilliant doctor who went through this process. So your level of guilt, your level of worry, of fear that something's drastically wrong with you not being able to execute this sugar stuff, and seemingly like everyone else is normal and they can do it when they try to stop quit sugar. Watch the entire series. It's really a master class in a normal person, like, a brilliant, person, a very successful and prominent person, socioeconomic has nothing to do with this, going through the process of back and forth, and you'll learn so much about it. So check it out. Check out sugardetox.com, take the quiz, take the challenge, 30-day challenge of getting off sugar. And especially with this newfound, Tony Horton moment, if there's someone, and look, I think the number is 1 in 3 now or 1 in 4 families are somehow affected by Alzheimer's. And one of the things that I think that made all that gel is that people now really understand that type 3 diabetes, which they're calling Alzheimer's, is really insulin resistance of the brain. That, sugar, Dr. Daniel Amen, you can look him up, and if you have the money to do it, you should go, where they have brain scans of your brain. And the standard American diet, you have holes in your brain. And when you change that diet, it comes back. So this is, again, pretty common knowledge. So if I'm not, and I'm not trying to scare you, but if we haven't scared you, with the weight gain and the diabetes, let us try and convince you, if you will, about um, the potential of your beautiful, brilliant, necessary brain. And so we'll leave it at that. I'm going to see what Dr. Cammy says on the text here, gang. Having internet troubles, please end the video without me. Thanks. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Gang, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. Tell your friends about Dr. Cammy. Tell your friends about sugardetox.com. And you can Google me, Mike Collins, the Sugar-Free Man, and you can find us on Facebook. We have Facebook groups. You'll see a picture of my book, The Last Resort Sugar Detox. If you kind of look through, if you just put Sugar Detox Support Group, there's a bunch of them. Ours is about 21,000 right now, so you can kind of gauge with. There's a couple of them, and some of them are good, some of them are not so good. They're selling stuff, but check it out. And so for Dr. Cammy, I'm signing off, and go back and watch a few more episodes, okay? Talk to you soon. Bye for now. If I end it or still 99%.